Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Bowen. I am the CEO of Refine Labs. I'm really excited to chat through a very tactical but hugely strategic assessment that every B2B company should be doing every 6 months so that they can be pressure testing everything that they're doing and continuing to optimize their go-to-market strategy, ultimately to help grow pipeline and revenue. So let's set the stage. Why are we talking about this? My belief is in 2024, marketing should be accountable for revenue. But today, a lot of companies just don't analyze their marketing performance specifically with revenue in mind. A lot of companies still only look at total number of leads generated or potentially meetings set from marketing sourced initiatives. And there's no rigor or analysis around how many of those leads actually convert to pipeline and revenue. And so the session today will equip you all with information, resources, a strategy, and an approach so that you can start taking a look at everything that you've done up until this point to identify what's driving pipeline and revenue and what isn't. And all of these insights will help inform your go-forward go-to-market strategy. So what we've seen here at Refine Labs over the last 4 years, we've done this analysis at over 200 B2B companies. And what we have seen definitively is that not all leads are created equal. And so the split the funnel analysis that we're going to walk through today, the primary conclusion that you will find for your business, and using your data, you'll have your own nuances and specifics that will really highlight how this applies to your business context. But you will 100% be able to see how high intent pipeline sources and low intent pipeline sources actually mature through the funnel and how both of them contribute to pipeline and revenue. And what you're seeing in this visual here, when you think about high intent sources, a couple of examples are your request a demo form on your website or your contact sales form on your website. A couple examples of low intent sources are maybe gated content. Hey, here's a white paper, but you need to give me your email address before I'm going to let you download this PDF. Or here's a content syndication website where I'm going to pay them to give me contact information and leads. When you actually separate out your high intent and your low intent sources, and you look at how many leads are required to create opportunities and then convert to customers, you'll see a significant difference in funnel performance. And so today, we're going to walk through the split the funnel analysis. So the goal of doing this is so that you can leverage your historical data, understand what programs are driving pipeline and revenue, uncover key insights, and make sure that your go-forward strategy is taking all of those into account. There's actually 3 steps to conduct a complete revenue performance assessment today. We're gonna focus on the second step, but I just wanted to provide a little bit more context around the full revenue performance assessment process. And so step 1 is the pipeline source analysis. This is intended to take a look at all of your opportunities and aggregate them by pipeline source. It is an input to the split the funnel analysis, which is then taking all of your opportunities by pipeline source, breaking them out between high intent and low intent, and measuring a variety of key metrics across that data set. And then lastly, the third step, especially for companies that are investing a lot in paid advertising or digital programs, doing a deep dive into all of your paid programs to glean additional data and insights that will be helpful for your strategy. So again, we're going to focus in on step 2 of the revenue performance assessment, that split the funnel analysis. And really doing this is going to help you achieve 3 primary objectives. So we're going to actually get into a lot of the data specifics in just a minute, but one of the things I just wanted to note is it's very common for any company not to have a perfect data set, right? And we don't expect that. You can still get a ton of value out of this analysis without having perfectly clean data. However, this analysis will surface what infrastructure gaps and data gaps that you do have in your system. And so that in and of itself is hugely valuable, because then you'll be able to understand the changes you need to make to your systems to collect as much of the data that is available so that you can have more insightful and accurate data sets and analyses going forward. The second benefit of doing the split the funnel analysis is that you're going to clearly be able to tell which programs, which pipeline sources are driving the most pipeline in revenue. And it will become pretty obvious which pipeline sources are very inefficient. And even if they might be providing a significant volume of leads, they might not be contributing anything or a very insignificant amount to pipeline and revenue. And so there's some pretty impactful insights to be gained from completing this analysis that'll not only improve your overall marketing strategy and the ROI on your marketing dollars, but actually be key insights for just the business overall. So let's get into the specifics here. So how to set up the analysis. Ultimately, we're going to be pulling data from your CRM and your marketing automation platform. And here is the set of data that's most important for this analysis to be meaningful. We're going to want to look at opportunity stages, pipeline sources. We actually want to be able to understand the creation date of the opportunity, the close date, the age, how long the opportunity was open, any additional lead source detail that might be available. For example, if the lead came in via a paid Google search program, the total revenue associated with that opportunity, and any campaign conversion point details that may or may not be available. So when you are taking a look at the data set that you have, it's really important to look at a couple of key metrics. And so I'm going to walk through the three arguably most important in conducting this split the funnel analysis. So the first one that I want to talk about is the lead to opportunity conversion rate. And so what this is looking at is, out of all the leads that are coming into the funnel. So again, taking a step back, this is, let's say you're running, you've built a white paper, you're running a lead gen, a gated content campaign on maybe LinkedIn, for example, and you're collecting a lead for every person that submits their name and email address to download that white paper. Those are all coming in as leads. You might also have event registration. So you're hosting a webinar or maybe a live event, and you're collecting people's contact and email addresses to sign up for that event, and you classify that as a lead in your system. You've built a contact sales requested demo form on your website, and you're deploying a paid social campaign to drive some traffic to that page in order to get people to book a call with your sales team. Those are counting as leads as well. There might be a variety of other programs that you have running. What we want to understand is how many of those leads, what percentage of those leads actually will convert to opportunity. The primary conclusion that you're getting from this particular metric is really around lead quality. So if you take a look at the charts that we have here, let me point out a couple of things that you might be noticing yourselves. So what we will often see is you might actually be able to acquire a huge volume of leads from a gated content download or a webinar registration, but the percentage of those leads that are actually going to convert to an opportunity and then revenue is going to be much, much lower than, for example, a lead that comes in and completes your request a demo form on your website. And so by being able to look at this metric, not in aggregate, not by just sales and marketing, but by actual pipeline source, you're going to get some really interesting insights on what pipeline sources are primarily contributing to the opportunities and the closed won revenue that you're seeing in your business. Oops. Sorry about that. Here we go. Let's talk about lead to win rate. So for those of you that are listening in live, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to get pretty specific with some of these data slides to deep dive and give you guys some really practical takeaways. So the next metric that you will be taking a look at in the split the funnel analysis is the lead to win rate percentage. And so let's break down this concept. So the point here, some channels are going to have a very low lead to win rate percentage, and others are going to have a much higher percentage. And so I want to talk through a couple of scenarios that we typically see when conducting this analysis. So scenario one, let's say that your cost per lead for a particular channel is $40. You might actually say, wow, it only cost me $40 to get that lead. That's a low amount of money. Like, let's keep doing this program because the cost per lead is so low and affordable. So what happens though is, what if you only actually win 0.1% of those leads? So out of 1,000 leads that only cost you $40 per lead, $40,000 total, only one of those will actually convert to an opportunity. If your average annual contract value is, let's say, $20K per year, your CAC payback period for that source is now 2 years. So while that $40 might seem like a good cost per lead on the surface, the low lead to win rate percentages make this actually a very, very expensive program to continue to maintain. So this is the trap that so many companies are still falling victim to, and it's because they're not looking at the data through this particular lens. Now, let's look at sort of the other side of it, right? The alternative scenario. Let's say your lead to win percentage for a particular source is 3%, not 0.1%. This means that you'll close 3 opportunities for every 100 leads that are generated from that particular source or program. In this scenario, you're actually spending 10x per lead, but you're still going to achieve a lower customer acquisition cost overall, as well as a shorter payback period, because you're actually going to close more opportunities at a higher value. And so this is the big aha moment that companies will enjoy when they go through this analysis, either doing it themselves or working with us to get that done. The last thing I want to talk through here is the third really insightful and valuable data point, which is win rate by pipeline source. And so this will be really eye-opening, because this is how you're going to be able to start to make some more concrete conclusions about where you might want to be reallocating a lot of your marketing budget investments. And so here is, you're going to be able to see by gated content, content syndication, the demo, the contact us demo request form. You're going to start to really clearly see your high intent pipeline sources and your low intent pipeline sources. And the entire premise here is that you should be anchoring the majority of your budget on programs that are going to drive more high intent leads, because we know that those are going to convert to opportunities and revenue at a higher win rate. Let's take a moment and talk through the actual practical realities of what this means. So, when I speak with executives and heads of marketing and try to walk through these concepts, I like to talk about it in terms of how we all as individuals like to learn about new products and make decisions in a B2B buying context. So what this is really saying is, how many of you have decided, okay, I really want to get this benchmark report, so I'm going to give up my email address for it? Or, wow, that event or that webinar that company is hosting is looks really interesting. Oh, they're having this speaker that I would really love to see speak. I'm going to go ahead and sign up for the event. Just because you wanted that benchmark report, just because you signed up for that event, that doesn't mean you're ready to buy that product that company is selling. And effectively, what happens with most people today is once you submit that email address through the form or through the event registration, at some point in the near future, you're going to be enrolled in some type of nurture email cadence. Someone on their sales team is going to reach out to you and see if you're interested in setting up a demo to learn more. And the reality is your intent to buy the product was actually fairly low in those particular scenarios that we just went through. Now, if you're actually someone that is actively searching for a particular solution to a problem that you've done your own internet research, you've actually ended up on a website and you've said, I'd like to see a demo of this product, or I would like to have a call with the salesperson. Obviously, your intent to seriously consider that product for purchasing is significantly higher. And the company is more likely to convert you into a customer than if you just downloaded their benchmark report. And so common sense and logic really backs up this analysis. But often, in the context of if you're a marketing leader at a company, it can be challenging to make that point to your leadership team by just expressing those anecdotes that I shared. So this analysis here will really put hard, concrete numbers from your company's systems behind these points that I'm conveying now, and really get the requisite buy-in needed to make some potentially pretty significant strategy and investment adjustments for your marketing and your entire go-to-market strategy. So let's talk a little bit more about what you learn from doing this analysis. So a disclaimer here is every company is different. Every set of data is different. People have different dynamics in their businesses. And so doing this analysis for your business is always going to generate very specific insights that will be valuable for your business, and maybe your business only. However, what we found in doing this analysis for hundreds and hundreds of companies is there are a lot of common trends and findings and recommendations that we see over and over and over again when we conduct this analysis. So what I wanted to share in advance of each of you doing your own revenue performance assessment and split the funnel analysis is some of these common takeaways and recommendations that we see. So number one, we pretty much see this across the board, that discontinuing your gated content or your direct response lead gen campaigns on awareness channels like LinkedIn and Facebook is generally the right thing to do. In very few and rare cases, do we actually see that those pipeline sources meaningfully convert to pipeline and revenue? And the reason is for what we've sort of just discussed. People that are giving you their contact information aren't necessarily actually looking to buy your product. They're just interested in the information that you're providing. So it's a low intent pipeline source. Now, our general recommendation here is to think about they actually do want your information. So you must be putting out some good content. And that's awesome. That's actually going to help your company grow and build awareness and acquire more customers. But you should reconsider that gating the content isn't doing you any favors, and just collecting their email address isn't really enough to actually make a sale. And so we always recommend that all campaigns on LinkedIn and Facebook are focused more on not requiring your target audience to give you any information for them to get the benefit and the value that you're providing on those particular channels. So number 2, you should really be focusing your efforts on lead sources that are going to be most impactful. And so what we see is when people come to your website and raise their hand and say that they're ready to have a sales conversation, that those are most likely to convert to opportunities and revenue. So how can we think about what are the right set of strategies, tactics, and programs that we can deploy that are going to actually drive more qualified buyers to your website so that they can raise their own hand when they're ready to have a sales conversation? It is a pretty significant mindset shift that those that have already made that shift or are making it now are already starting to see the benefit. And if you can continue to drive up more qualified, more high intent conversions, that's how you're actually going to see that compounding growth that we all want to see in our businesses. So number 3, what's really great about this particular analysis is it will actually surface so many different data points and insights and feedback. And this will actually give you an opportunity, for example, to take this to your sales leader and have a conversation about how you all can work together to leverage the insights and the feedback that you're getting from this data. Maybe the sales team actually agrees that calling people after they download the benchmark report isn't working, and they want to be a good partner to marketing to figure out how we can drive more of those high intent versus low intent leads into the funnel. The next step is once you do this, it's really important to really come up with a plan of what you're going to be doing next. And I always like to surface that very common approach of stop, start, continue. So after you complete this analysis, there are probably some investments and some programs that you are running that you should actually just stop doing completely. They literally have no material impact on pipeline and revenue. They're not aligned to how B2B buyers are buying today. You should just stop doing that stuff. It's not working. Then there's probably some new things that you should consider that you should start doing that you're not doing today, to ensure that as you start to turn down programs, you can reallocate that budget to new programs that might be even more impactful. Maybe investing more in your content marketing strategy, or starting a podcast, or assembling a customer advisory board to fuel more word of mouth in your target buying audience. And then continue. When you do this analysis, you'll find that I'm sure there's many things that are working. So how are we going to continue to do those things that are working? And how are we going to continue to optimize those strategies so that they can continue to perform even better? What I always recommend when we work with a marketing team or marketing leader to conduct this analysis is that it's really important to share this information with the full C-level executive team and potentially even the board. And so being able to put together a deck and manage up and share the results as well as the strategic recommendations can be really valuable for executive teams and boards to really, truly better understand what's going on in marketing. This actually also can be really impactful for future forecasting and goal setting, to have realistic historical benchmarks on performance, and understanding based on the go forward strategy where we expect to see improvement across different programs, and then the relative impact on pipeline and revenue. And then step 3 of the revenue performance assessment, we're not going to get into that too deep today, but that's that sort of paid media deep dive audit. Going in and actually analyzing all of your Google Ads campaigns, your paid social campaigns at the actual, all the way through to the campaign level, will certainly give you additional insights of, which specific campaigns may be underperforming, which ones are performing well, again, resulting in insights that will help you craft your go forward strategy. So everything that I talked about today, I wanted to make sure that what we went over, you all listening would be able to take what you've learned and apply it to your business. And I'm really excited to announce, if you go ahead and head over to refinelabs.com, you can actually click on the Vault and you can get access to a free trial of the Vault. That includes a full set of resources so that you can conduct your own revenue performance assessment at your company. You'll actually have all the information you need to conduct the pipeline source analysis, to conduct the split the funnel analysis, as well as the paid media deep dive. We'll give you a Google Sheet template that you can actually make a copy of and give you really specific instructions of the reports that you need to pull out of your Salesforce, your HubSpot, Marketo, and the data that you need to enter into the template that we provide that will help visualize and calculate all of the metrics that we went over today. We've even put together a presentation template that'll allow you to actually take your specific data set and drop in the data that you have for your company, as well as the visualizations of the key metrics that we went over, to make it really easy for you to not only conduct the analysis yourself, but actually put together a presentation that you can share and walk through with your executive team so that they all understand the great work that you've done and the insights that you gathered on what you all need to do going forward to meaningfully improve the growth trajectory of the company. So I would encourage all of you to check it out, to download those free resources, and to conduct this assessment. Every single time we've done this for a company, they have learned something that they did not know that has made a meaningful shift to their marketing strategy that has resulted in improved business results for the company. So it's a very practical way to have a really strategic impact on the work that you're doing to grow your business. So I hope this was helpful. I know we're kind of coming up on the hour. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions related to this topic if you want to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or need any help conducting your own revenue performance assessment.
Great. Thank you, Megan. I actually had a few questions. So you mentioned the free access to the Vault. Is this a short-time deal or is this like something they can access here moving forward?
It's a great question. So the free account gives you access to 10 of our Vault resources. For now, there's no time limit, but actually we're going to have a big announcement coming late March and early April about the next evolution for the Vault. So I encourage people that are interested in checking out the free resources to get in there as soon as possible, because some big things are coming and we're going to be making some changes.
Yeah, thank you. And then you also mentioned like gating content. I know one point of conversation is whether it's better to gate it or ungate it. What would you recommend as far as gating goes? Do you just let people just access your content to kind of build their brand trust, or is there some advantage to still requiring emails to get that content?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so typically my rule of thumb is ungating the majority of your content is typically the winning strategy. More and more B2B buyers are, number one, either hesitant to give up their email for content, or even if they do, it doesn't really mean they're actually a marketing qualified lead that's ready for your sales team to speak to. So generally speaking, giving your content away for free, making it interesting and easy to consume is the most effective way that you're going to be able to get your message out. Certainly, there are specific instances and cases where it does make sense. Potentially, you might invest a lot of time and effort into a huge annual report that includes all these interesting benchmarks. And so there can be some, really flagship content assets that you want to put behind a gate. But as a general rule, you should ungate, and gating should be the exception.
Okay, that's great. I think that's really helpful to a lot of marketers, and I know it is such like a relevant topic of conversation because I don't know, speaking from experience as a marketer, I definitely always get like a little bit hesitant when it comes to that. So I guess just taking the leap of faith and just trusting that it'll work.
The way to think about it, Jenny, is think about yourself, right? Like if you're scrolling LinkedIn for something, you probably just want to be able to see what you want to see. You don't want to fill some form out. And so I think what I always try to remind people of is put yourself in your buyer's shoes. Like, do you want to go through that process yourself? What if a salesperson reached out to you after? Would you respond? Is that how you would want to engage with that company? It's really interesting because whenever you ask someone the question in that regard, they'll be typically pretty honest about like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me, or I just ignore it, or I put in a fake email address. But when it comes to actually being in the hot seat, it's an easy tactic to go to because it's how so many marketing teams have done it for so long.
Oh yeah. Like I'm definitely the worst at that. I'm always putting the 8675309 as my phone number. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. One last question. So you talk about buyer's intent, and that's really like a reason you shouldn't gate content is because like most people who are looking to get that content aren't actually looking to buy. So what are you guys doing at Refine Labs to really help identify those buyers' intent and identify their signals for when they're ready to buy?
Yeah, and I think this really just goes back to over the last 10 to 20 years, there has just been an undeniable shift in how B2B buyers consume information, learn about products, and make purchasing decisions. And the reality is most people will actually get 60 to 70% of the way through your sales process before you ever talk to them. And most people only want to talk to a salesperson once they've done a certain amount of research on their own. Once they've actually spoken with their peers in the space and said, "Hey, what tech are you using to solve this problem? Well, what's your opinion on the difference between 6sense and Demandbase?" Right? It's just a different world now with the advent of social media and more peer-to-peer engagement and Slack communities, and just the general evolution of the internet and the amount of information that people can find out on their own without having to sit through a sales call. So that's what's happening here. And so what you want to be doing is understanding that reality and playing within that game. And so what that means is, how can I make content and information available to my audience where they're already spending their time without asking them to do anything to consume that information? And the reality is they'll come to your website when they're ready to speak with you. Now, that said, you do have 2 to 5% of your market that's actively looking to buy your product today. They're going to be on channels like Google Search, Bing, maybe on G2, Capterra. So you can be really smart about how you're leveraging your paid programs on those demand capture channels to make sure that for those people that are in market, yeah, let's capture that demand and let's bring them to our website and get them in front of a salesperson as soon as possible. But you have to then recognize that, the other 95% of your market that doesn't want to buy today, they don't want to give you their contact information. They're not ready to talk to your salesperson today, but they still would be willing to learn about your product, your brand, your unique value proposition. So how are you effective at communicating your content to them while focusing on effectively capturing the demand? And what you'll see is if you're good at doing both, you're capturing demand today and you're creating demand for tomorrow, at which point those buyers that initially weren't in market become in market. And in fact, they already know you. So maybe they're even just coming straight to your website and raising their hand on their own.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Megan. A lot of really great information. And then I'm just going to do the little reminder, check out the Vault, Refine Labs. It'll definitely be worth your time to run that analysis.
Thanks for the questions, Jenny. They were great. I appreciate you all having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Megan.